to Metaphysical Anatomy A-Z, where we learn about the body to master our lives. And today, B stands for bloating. So we'll talk about the psychosomatic root causes of bloating. And I want to talk about 6 main issues today. The first is simply how we eat. So a lot of times, without even realizing it, we eat where we're feeling a lot of stress or other emotions in the body. Whether we're sitting with other people eating and having discussions that are unpleasant or conflict in any way, or we're sitting watching the news, or even we're watching something that we enjoy, but there's any kind of stress and the drama of whatever that is, that causes us to literally swallow emotions as we're swallowing our food. And the lower abdomen is not meant to be a place to digest emotions. So emotions can get stuck there as we push food down. And so that's a big component. How are we eating? What are we exposed to, if anything, when we're eating? And can we more mindfully eat and just focus on eating, focus on the pleasure that we're getting from our food so that there's not any other negatively associated emotions in the mix? The second point today is people that suffer from bloating often had an emotionally stressful childhood. So they were dealing with a lot emotionally and coping was hard. They did their best to cope in a variety of different ways, but they still always felt stress in their nervous system or always felt triggered in different ways. And now as adults, perhaps we feel that same stress and the same part of the nervous system gets triggered, even though we on some level know that we're capable of handling it, that childhood experience is still playing out as present. The third issue related to bloating is similar along the lines of the childhood stress, is accepting blame and responsibility. So people that suffer from bloating or digestive issues often tend to take on more responsibility or more blame in any interaction so that they can keep the peace. You know, they really care about keeping calm or peaceful relationships and not causing conflict, not having dissonance. So a lot of times when we don't speak our truth or we assume too much responsibility that's not really ours, the body will have a negative reaction to that. And I personally think that when we have bloating, there's like literally this physical sensation that's going on, that's sticking out, that's asking for our attention. The fourth piece is an ancestral piece. So for ancestors that may have felt suppressed or that they didn't have a voice, other ancestors might have felt helpless or overpowered. Anything where there was suppression in any way is the same concept of sort of that swallowing down of emotions to keep an external world or an external relationship more peaceful. And unfortunately, when we swallow down emotions, they don't leave the body in the same way that food or physical matter does. Those energies, those emotions get very stuck and start to cause density and can cause bloating. So how can we release those emotions to let that area feel more neutral again? Along with ancestral karma, there's sort of the concept of feeling invaded. So a lot of times, again, people that suffer from digestion or bloating have poor boundaries, not because they don't want to, but because they're sensitive. And again, we're trying to keep the peace and we take on a lot of burden and responsibility. So we might be more easily manipulated or just taking on too much. And so the body starts to feel like there's no buffer, there's no space, there's no energetic boundary between myself and others. So it needs to get bigger to create some protection that sort of pushes back on that. I also want to mention as the sixth piece that the instincts often that go with bloating are feeling of wanting to hide. So of that like kind of pulling in and wanting to not be seen. which again, I think is the mirror side of that, or the flip side of that is like this part of your body sticking out. So we want to tighten up and not be seen, and a part of our body is pushing out because it wants to be seen, it wants to be heard, it wants to be validated. And as well as there's often a sensation of wanting to numb out or dissociate, either through overeating or getting pleasure from eating, or dissociating and numbing from emotions that we might have suppressed and pushed down. So if anyone has any questions, I would love to hear from you. You can leave them in the comments or send me an email. And if you identify with any or many of these, let's talk. You know, I've definitely dealt with bloating in my life, and it's a really important topic for me personally, that I think that we just all live in not only bloated bodies a lot of the time, but a bloated world. And how do we become more peaceful with less? How do we minimize to really get present with ourselves and know what we need? Like, how do we slow down and get silent and still so that we can actually pay attention to the cues of the body, the messages that it's sending us? Because in truth, it's communicating with us all the time, instead of just being engaged in so many distractions that we can't listen. So again, I would love to hear from you, and I will be back soon for the next episode. Bye-bye.